Hello everyone, what's going on? I'm Gareth, the Master974 back again today. Welcome to another Source Shorts video, one that I've been meaning to do for about 3 weeks or so now, so apologies for the delay in getting this out. But what I'm going to do is showcase how to make the chapter titles show up in the load game menu correctly. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video is because about 3 weeks ago I started playing Division 3 of Half-Life 2 Raising of the Bar Redux, and I wanted to find the end of the Division 2 update and had some difficulty doing that. And from the video footage you can see here, the load game menu shows just the map names of the save files. But if I was to play a mod like Coterminous instead, then you can see that the chapter titles are actually displayed in the load game menu correctly. Now, what's going on with this, you might wonder? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So what you want to do is go to your Visual Studio Games or Everything solution. It doesn't matter if you go to the episodic or HL2 code. It's also worth mentioning as well that this is only going to be applicable to Source 2013 single player mods, because you don't really save and load games in Source 2013 multiplayer mods. But you want to scroll down through the source files until you find the gameinterface.cpp file. I've already got it loaded up here. And you want to go to around line 1580, because you'll see this little title comment struct. And there's a developer comment left by Valve saying that this little hack lets them marry BSP names to messages in titles.txt. So you can actually check titles.txt, it will be in your mods scripts folder. I believe there's a titles.txt file provided by default, and you can check this file out if you want to. There's a bunch of information here about what you can do, and some information and sort of test stuff like game over and the chapter titles and stuff like that. So going into this is a bit beyond the sort of consideration of this video, but there you go, just go for the entire file for you. But that doesn't really matter, as I said, because what matters is what comes after this struct, which is this array of title comments called gTitleComments. And what it says here is that the list gets searched for the first partial match, so some of them are out of order. And so that can explain an issue, which I'm going to get into, where, for example, if you want to keep the naming convention for, say, Half-Life 2, and call a map D2 Coast 1, not D2 Coast 01, then that would have a different chapter title than D2 Coast 2, which, funnily enough, there's no D2 Coast 02, although there is a map called D2 Coast 02 in the Half-Life 2 game files, but it's like 0 kilobytes in size, which I don't know how Valve managed that, but the second coastal map is D2 Coast 03, but I just copied the first two coastal maps that actually have data, renamed one D2 Coast 1, renamed D2 Coast 03 to D2 Coast 2, and what you'd find in the load game menu is that D2 Coast 1 would have the title Sand Traps, but D2 Coast 2 would have the title Highway 17. So the chapter titles are out of order, even though Coast 01, or Coast 1 in this case, comes before Coast 2, but the chapters are like inconsistent. And the reason why that was happening, in case any of you have actually encountered that issue, is because of this title comment struct here. So if we scroll through it, you can see it starts with Half-Life 1, and I think that might be the Half-Life source stuff. But you see, the way that it works based off of the struct is that you start with the BSP name or the map name, and then you have the title name after it. So you'd add elements inside of curly brackets, and then in one set of speech marks you have the map name, and in another set of speech marks you have the chapter title to use. So if we scroll past the Half-Life 1 and the Portal sort of chapters, then you can see, for example, a map called D1 train station underscore. Whatever comes after the underscore, it could be anything, but it will be given Half-Life 2 Chapter 1's title of point insertion. Then, for example, with the canals, D1 canals 1, it could be 10, 11, or whatever, or just straight up D1 canals 1 would have Chapter 4's title, which I believe is Route Canal. But then D1 canals 0 would have HL2 Chapter 3's title. So, actually, I think Chapter 3 is Route Canal, and then Chapter 4 is Water Hazard. So you can kind of see how a bit of an inconsistency can happen there. And with the example I just said with the coast, D2 Coast 1 would have chapter 8 title, but D2 Coast underscore, and that could be 2, 3, 4, whatever, would actually have chapter 7's title. So that's why there'd be a bit of an inconsistency, because D2 Coast 1 was supposed to be for like the levels for 10 and up, would use chapter 8's title, but D2 Coast underscore just uses the chapter 7 title. So hopefully you can understand what I'm getting at with this, that pretty much this is how you can get the load game menu to show the actual chapter titles as it's supposed to. So if I uncomment this example down here, if I was to create a save game for the map SDK Vehicles, then it would use whatever the name of chapter 6 title from Half-Life 2 is, which would be We Don't Go to Ravenholm. Now you might say, well, why do this? Why does it matter? It's not like it really does anything, because the next function is only on Xbox. That might be true, but check the function after it. Get save comment. You get a map name, which is based off of the map name, which is determined by whatever the map name actually is. And then you iterate over all elements of G title comments, and then see if you find a match, and then that gets saved into this P name. Otherwise, if we don't actually get a match, then you just get the map name back. So that's why in Raising the Bar Redux, you get the map name when you save a game and go into the load game menu, because they haven't added anything to that title comment struct. But with what I've outlined here, if you were to add map names to that struct, then, or that array I should say, then you can end up going into this for loop, this if statement, and then it does everything that it's supposed to. So if I show some footage right now, what you should see is that if you were to save a game in SDK Vehicles, go to the load game menu, it should show up with the We Don't Go to Ravenholm title. And if you go to any other mod, then if you save the game, then it should show up with the chapter title in the load game menu, if that's been added, like as I said earlier with the Terminus mod, that's been done. And if you want to do this for your Source 2013 single player mod, then you can follow this, and that's pretty much all you need to do. Just have inside the curly brackets the map name, then a comma, and then in another set of speech marks, the chapter title related to that map. So that's all I really need to say for this video. Sorry for taking like 3 weeks to get this done. I hope the explanations have been good, and I've screwed up with the audio in a couple of places as I always do, but that's what I get for not doing this for so long. But let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll have another Source Shorts video out very soon. So take care out there, peace out, see you later, and have a great day, and subscribe for more content. Thanks everyone.